Oh, hey guys. Welcome back to the I Love This Shit podcast. Just want to thank everybody for a great first day of release. I did a lot better than anticipated. I didn't do, in the thousands or hundreds or even in the 20s for listens, downloads, whatever, but nonetheless, it was still better than I expected, and I can't thank everyone enough for listening. A lot of people couldn't listen because they haven't seen the movie yet. For those of you who don't know, the first episode was an Avengers Infinity War review. Some people hadn't seen the movie, so therefore didn't want to listen to the episode, which is totally understandable. I get it. That's fine. But today, what we're going to be talking about is, I think I'm going to call this, maybe I might call it In the Queue, On the Queue. This is basically an episode talking about what I am either watching, reading, listening to, what I'm going to watch, read, listen to, whatever's on my radar right now that I'm excited about in any of those categories. So yeah, let's get on with it, guys. So if you guys were following me at all on my Instagram, which was mostly a bookstagram, I am going to keep it that. That's the reason why I had that Instagram, is to, show my love of books and whatnot. That's not going to change at all. I'm still going to keep it a bookstagram, just accompanied by a podcast is all. So you're going to get both posts, talking about both. But if you followed it before this, it was a podcast assisted page. It was a bookstagram, is a bookstagram, and I do a lot of reading, not as much as some people. Some people read an ungodly amount that I can't even fathom. I think last year I did something like 45 books, which I think that might be a record for myself, which I was happy about. 45 books, man, that's, a little under a book a week. I'm sorry, a little over a book a week. No, under a book a week, my bad, Jesus. And so that's, that's not bad for me. I'm going to try to do 50 this year. I think I'm at 20, and we're almost halfway through the year. I did read a couple thick books. I did, and also read some books that it took me a lot longer to finish than I had anticipated. But hey, things happen. But what am I currently reading or wanting to read? Well, right now, I am reading Joyland by Stephen King. I should probably be done. I'll be done before this episode even goes up. So you might get a review on that pretty soon. Maybe not. Shorter books like this one, it's less than 300 pages. I may just, do a usual review on Instagram or on Goodreads. By the way, if you're not following me on Goodreads, I believe it is Bees Reads. It's not BS Reads. I know a lot of people got confused. You can't put apostrophes in Instagram usernames, so it is Bees Reads. A lot of people said BS Reads. I know, my fault. Kind of a bad username to choose, but anyway, I believe it is BS_Reads. If I'm wrong, I will put the link in the notes section on this because I can't really remember right now. It's actually been a little while since I've used Goodreads and did a review on there, but I'll get back to it, guys. Anyway, Joyland. It is a book by Stephen King, part of the Hard Case Crime series of books. The Hard Case Crime books, this is the only one I've read so far. They tend to do, obviously, crime novels with a very heavy noir feel, from what I understand. Although this one, there isn't a whole lot of crime that has happened. There hasn't been anything like that whatsoever. It's kind of as if that movie Adventureland, for those of you that have ever seen Adventureland with Jesse Eisenberg, it's a coming-of-age story where he goes and works at a little amusement park for the summer. That's basically what this is. It's kind of like that with a slight supernatural tinge to it. So far, it's just been, kind of like a ghost story surrounding the amusement park, and we haven't gotten to where if the ghost is real or not, or if everyone's just afraid of it. I honestly feel like it's kind of like The Body or Stand By Me, but with that supernatural backdrop, just as not really filler, but just something for the characters to to go off of, it's just kind of in the background so far, but I am liking it. It's very good. I'm surprised they haven't made this into a movie or a show yet. Stephen King has done another hard case crime novel, which I believe is a very short novel, barely over 100 pages, called The Colorado Kid, which did get turned into a series called Haven. I think that came on Sci-Fi here. I don't know if it's Sci-Fi outside the U.S. or not. But it's just crazy that they turned that tiny book into a multi-season show, which I'm assuming only follows the book for maybe a few episodes and then goes off on its own thing. I don't know. Haven't seen it. Haven't read it. So I can't attest to any of that. But I started reading Joyland in between because I've been on a heavy Neil Gaiman kick lately. I haven't read any Neil Gaiman up until the beginning of April, I believe. I decided to have my first novel be his first novel, which is Neverwhere, and just, oh man, absolutely loved it. It was very good. He wanted to make a book for adults to remind them of the stories they heard when they were children and wanted to make you feel like a kid again, which you could read this to a kid, or a kid could read it if, they wanted to read a 400-page book. It's very, very enchanting, which a friend has told me perfectly describes Gaiman, as he's read quite a bit of Gaiman. You guys will meet him pretty soon. He's going to be on here at some point. We always talk about books to each other, and I was like, oh well, perfect. We can banter about books on the podcast. Anyway, Gaiman's Neverwhere, aside from there's a little bit of F words in there. I've noticed he's not very big on cursing, which is a good thing. He's got such colorful language to where he doesn't even need to use strong language, bad language, however you want to say that. He's definitely a wordsmith. He's got prose and just beautiful writing, very good. That was a very good book for me to start out with reading. So after Neverwhere, I jumped immediately into American Gods, which I thought was highly praised by Gaiman fans and readers in general, but apparently it does seem a little bit divided. You either love it or you hate it, which is perfect for this show. So I will say I did love it. It was really good. There was a little bit of downtime where not a whole lot happened, and it started to get a little bit boring. But overall, it was very good. It didn't go where I expected it to go. Not to ruin, I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't read it. But yeah, it did not turn out the way I was expecting it to. I also didn't know it was basically a road trip book. They travel all across America, which I guess makes sense. American Gods. They go all around America talking to different gods, trying to rally everybody together for a big battle that's coming up. But it was very good. Very, very good. I really want to read The Graveyard Book next. I've heard that's a very good novel of his. It's I think it's the only book actually to win a Newbery Medal, which is for like achievement in children's writing, as well as, I can't remember the other award, but I know it's for not necessarily adult fiction, but for older readers alike, and it's the only book to ever win both of those, which is very intriguing. The fact that it can win a children's award and then a adult fiction, if you will, award. I might be wrong on that, but I know it is the only book to have won two specific types of awards. Offhand, I can't think about it now. I just know one is the Newbery Award for children's literature. But I've heard it's very good. One review I read of it said something like it will break your heart in all the best ways possible, which I don't think I've cried in a book since probably I finished the final Dark Tower novel a year and some change ago. Yeah, that definitely brought some tears to my eyes for sure, because of the book in general and the fact that my Dark Tower journey was ending, which so many people I've seen on Bookstagram are starting their Dark Tower journey or about midway through for the first time, and it's really making me want to go back and read them again. I've already read the first three times, I believe. I've read the fourth novel twice, and I've only read the second half, 5, 6, and 7 once. I still haven't read the 8th book or 4.5, what have you. The Wind Through the Keyhole. I still haven't read that one yet. I want to have that one Dark Tower novel I haven't read just sitting there waiting for a rainy day. I started it, didn't finish it, just because I wasn't ready the first time to have my Dark Tower journey, and I really am not ready now. Even though there's plenty of, like the comics, there's the short stories centered around Midworld and Roland and things before the first Dark Tower novel, which I still haven't got to. I do plan on doing that soon because I am definitely jonesing for some more Dark Tower for sure. Anyway, there's other Neil Gaiman books I really want to read. There's Ocean at the End of the Lane. There's Norse mythology, which I've heard is both. I've heard both are really good. So I can't wait to get to those. Also coming up that I really cannot wait for, obviously, is Stephen King's new book, The Outsider, which comes out May 22nd here in the U.S. I think it's the same date or a day before or after that overseas. Really looking forward to that. I've read a short little synopsis on it that didn't give too much away. Luckily, most of the time they give away way too much in the description of it. So I'm glad that they kept it pretty vague. I could be wrong, but I don't even think they said the name of the detective in that book. I know it's a detective story, which is pretty cool. He's been on a detective kick lately, which he did with the Bill Hodges trilogy, Mr. Mercedes, Finders Keepers, and End of Watch. Which, if you guys aren't watching the Mr. Mercedes series, you really need to. I didn't like the first book as much as I was expecting to. It was okay. They definitely improved on it with the first season of the show. The second novel was amazing. It could have been a great standalone novel by itself, Finders Keepers. So I think the new season is jumping straight to the third book, which is crazy to me. But looks like they might sprinkle in some stuff from the second book in there, which they probably have to, because otherwise, then after they finish this season, they're going to be doing their own thing like they did with Game of Thrones. Don't even get me started on that. But apparently King has talked about giving a solo novel to Holly from the Mr. Mercedes trilogy. And a lot of people are speculating that this might be it. I would not be opposed to that at all. That sounds really cool. She was a little annoying at first when you first meet her, but you really grow to like her, and she winds up becoming one of your favorite characters. So it would be really cool to have this be a spin-off novel of that. We'll see. We'll find out in a couple weeks. Also, what I'm really looking forward to doesn't come out until a little bit towards the end of summer. It comes out at the end of August 28th. It is the sequel to Nicholas Eames's Kings of the Wild, the sequel is called Bloody Rose. If you guys have not read Kings of the Wild, I cannot recommend it enough. It was such a great, fun book. It's supposed to be set in kind of like the medieval times, where all the warriors were looked upon as rock stars, and they would call them bands, and the main character gets the band back together to journey across the Hartswild to rescue his daughter. And it's so much fun. You can just tell he had fun writing it. It can totally be set with a classic rock backdrop to it. I don't know if there's a Spotify playlist for the first book, but I know the author just released the Spotify playlist for the second novel, and it's just as good as the first one. The songs sound perfect and would fit that story perfectly. So yeah, that's called Bloody Rose, sequel to Kings of the Wild. Check out Kings of the Wild before Bloody Rose comes out. I highly, highly recommend it. Also in July, I am going to be doing a read-along on my Instagram of one of my favorite Stephen King novels, The Talisman, which he wrote with author Peter Straub. And I haven't read any Peter Straub. I started to read Ghost Story, and I got about a third of the way in, and it lost my attention. It didn't really grab me as well as I was hoping. And honestly, The Talisman just feels like it was written solely by King. Either the two of them found a really great third voice in their writing, or Straub, which is at the top of his game on that novel, because it's so much fun, guys. So much fun. If you don't know what the story is, it's about this kid named Jack Sawyer, whose mother is dying of cancer, I believe, and he discovers he has this ability to flip into the territories, which is basically he goes into this other world that's very similar to ours, and his mom is the queen of that land, and she is also dying, and if she dies in the territories, she dies in real life, and he has to journey across the U.S. and the territories to get to the talisman and bring it back to her to save her, and along the way, it's Stephen King, bad shit happens the whole way there. It's so good, guys. Join me in that read along if you would like to. It will be up on my Instagram. I've talked about it a little bit. I'll talk about it a little bit more as July approaches. I love this pod on Instagram. I will be doing it in July. Lastly, for what I am reading, I recently rediscovered Marvel Unlimited, which for those of you that don't know what that is, it's a subscription service to Marvel Comics, basically, but it's all digital. They have so many comics on there. I don't think it's every comic they have ever done, but for the most part, whatever it is you're looking for, they will have it. They don't put new issues up until 6 months later, so, this week, the new issues will be from the beginning of November. But, that's fine. I am in no way, shape, or form caught up with any storylines, but I started the new Ant-Man. I think I've read 3 issues now, which is really good. It's really fun and entertaining. I recommend you check that out if you can, if you have the means to. Which, speaking of which, today is free comic book day, which unfortunately I'm not going to get to because my nearest comic book store is over 30 miles away. I get that's not that far, but I don't have the most reliable car in the world, and I'm not about to take it on the freeway and break down just for one free comic book, as much fun as it would be. So, hey, maybe next year. I also started reading The Indestructible Hulk, which the artwork is just amazing, guys. You check that out too. The Indestructible Hulk, not The Incredible Hulk. This is kind of like a sequel to that. It's really good. Go ahead and check that out, guys. Marvel Unlimited, kind of like Comixology. For those of you who don't know what Comixology is, it's a similar subscription comic book service that Amazon offers. They offer a lot of the beginnings of things. Once you've read 2 or 3 volumes of a series, the next 10 you have to buy on their own. You can't just read entire series on there, which for $10 a month, I guess that's fine. You get to start it out, and if you really want to continue reading them, you can go out and buy them. And, hey, there you go. At least you got to read the beginning of a series or multiple series for $10 a month. Not bad. So I think that's it for what I am reading right now. Why don't we get into what I am listening to, which started off very great for me yesterday. I did not know that Leon Bridges had a new album come out called Good Thing. And if you don't know who Leon Bridges is, he is a soul singer whose main influence is Sam Cooke. And my God, you can tell that Sam Cooke is his biggest influence because his singing style, the music style, even the literal sound of the music sounds a little dusty and vintage and, like it was recorded on a dirty, scratched up tape in all the best way possible. It just sounds so vintage. Check out his first album called Coming Home. I'm sure some of you guys have heard of him. If you haven't, go check out Coming Home. It's a great album. I didn't think he could top that album with this new one, but I honestly think I like this one better. He definitely perfected the craft on this album. Some of the highlights for me were Beyond. That's the name of the song. That's a really good song. Bad Bad Thing is the latest single, I believe, as is Beyond. There's also another song called If It Feels Good, Then It Must Be. That's probably one of my favorites as well. It's just such a great album, guys. It's called Good Thing. Go look it up. And you know what? Just to kind of give you an idea of how his music sounds, hopefully I don't get hit with copyright. I'll just show you 10 seconds-ish of how the song Coming Home sounds. It, like I said, sounds so vintage, and his singing style is so great to accompany it. This is what it sounds like.
Coming home to your tender, sweet loving. You're my one and only one.
And if it sounds like a little sounds a little distorted or not very crisp, that's because I did play it through my phone, but that's just how his sound is. He does such a great job at emulating the 50s, 60s sound. And apparently, what he does is his engineer slash producer is also his drummer, and they record straight to tape, which nowadays people don't record straight to tape. You can surmise that, everything's digital nowadays, which it is, but they record it straight to tape, which gives it that vintage feel. And it's so retro to this fact that his drummer, producer, engineer will actually have to go into the control room, hit record, walk out of the control room into the recording studio, get behind the drums, and they all start playing together in one room. They don't record everything separately. It's all together in one room, which gives it that very great live vintage sound. So yeah, guys, check out Leon Bridges. Both albums. Coming Home is his first album, and Good Thing is the one that just came out yesterday, Friday. Definitely check it out. Another thing I've been listening to since it came out in December, guys. Yes, we're 5 months past December, and I'm still listening to it like it is brand new. It is No One Ever Really Dies by NERD, which, if you guys didn't know, that is what NERD stands for. If you don't know who NERD is, it's they're very hard to categorize into a group, genre, I should say. They're like a funk, rock, hip-hop, punk, fusion, just so many different genres that they get influenced from. It is fronted by Pharrell Williams, yes, that Pharrell, and Chad Hugo, who make up the producing duo The Neptunes, who have done countless multiple hits for the past 20 years. They are also accompanied in NERD by their friend Shay Haley, who is kind of lends to the more rapping side. He does sing, he does a little both. Guys, just check out their entire catalog. I can't stress enough how much I love NERD. I could probably spend an episode or two just talking about NERD. Go check out their new album, their entire discography. Just do it and, thank me later. Also, I've been listening to a lot lately is Bobby Tarantino 2 by Logic, who is one of the better rappers of today compared to some of the garbage that people call rap or hip-hop nowadays. I know a lot of people aren't fans of rap or hip-hop, and I can see why, especially if all you've been hearing or all you've ever heard is stuff that they play on the radio. Even though some of that stuff is good, it's not half as good as what you are not hearing. A good example of the good stuff you're hearing is Kendrick Lamar, obviously probably the biggest rapper in the world right now, and rightfully so. His latest album, Damn, just won a Pulitzer Prize, people. The very first album that was not jazz or classical to ever win the Pulitzer Prize, which is just amazing. That's so awesome that, the folks there recognize something as great as that album to represent a culture as a whole. And just, kudos to them for doing that. Which, sadly, it did not win Album of the Year at the Grammys, which it should have, because, Bruno Mars deserved it, apparently. Not the biggest fan of Bruno Mars. I don't hate him or anything, but he definitely won that because he was just the more popular out of everybody there. It should have went to Kendrick Lamar, but hey, Bruno Mars doesn't have a Pulitzer Prize under his belt, and never will. So moving on. I still can't get enough of Linkin Park's new album. It's coming up on probably a year old now, which means we're coming up on sadly, the 1 year anniversary of Chester Bennington's death, who is probably one of my favorite singers of all time. I've said it before. If I were to ever have a singing voice, I would love it. If I could sound even the minutest bit like Chester, just such a great voice, man. I've been listening to their new album, One More Light. It's a very good album. I initially didn't take to it when it first came out. I wasn't the biggest fan because it was very mellow and toned down compared to, normal Linkin Park stuff. That's one of the reasons why I love Linkin Park is every album they've done, they've totally expanded their sound to where, they don't want it to sound like anything they've done before, but they will take elements of what they've sounded like before and just try to perfect it and work their craft. And that's what pisses me off when a lot of people say, oh, I can't stand Linkin Park after their second album. Well, obviously you don't like change, because their second album sounded exactly like their first one, which is why you liked it. Don't get me wrong. I love every album they've ever done. Especially the first two. Those are my teen years right there, early teens. That's just nostalgic to listen to Hybrid Theory and Meteora. But, even they said, man, after that second album, we realized how easy it is to make an album that sounds like that. It's so easy for us to do. We need to change it up. And how many clones of that style did you hear after that and are still hearing? They're a big influence on lots of bands nowadays. So, they wanted to switch up their sound, and good for them, because they've always grown. And that's what bands need to do every time. Challenge themselves and do something they've never done before, out of the ordinary, and that's how you get a great band. Whether or not the result comes out to be good or not, you got to give them props for trying it out and experimenting. All right, guys, so moving on to what I am watching. Since I finished the American Gods novel, I figured I would start the show. I am about 2 episodes in. Yeah, I'm 2 episodes in. I need to start the 3rd episode. So far, it's very good. It's definitely a visual splendor, man. They've definitely done a good job at the look of it. And it's it's so over the top, bloody and violent, but stylized, which definitely gives it its own feel, and it's just nice to look at. I'm usually not a fan of CGI blood, because it looks like a video game. It's like, come on, guys, if you wanted to make a video game, just make a damn video game. Give me some realistic looking blood, which is one of the main gripes I had with that movie 300, other than just not being a fan of it in general. I know I'm one of those that does not like the movie 300, so what? But all the fake blood, man, I just could not do it. It just looked too much like a video game that I wouldn't even play or like. So, but they did a good job with it on American Gods so far. Like I said, I'm only 3 episodes in of the 8. The second season, I'm not sure when that's going to start, but apparently the first season only covers the first third of the novel, which is insane to me. But then again, 8 episodes, it's a 40 page book, so that's not so bad. For 8 hours, you can do a third of a book and still have it be very good and cohesive. I don't know how much they've changed it. It doesn't look like a whole lot has changed. They've added some stuff to it, but it looks like it's all for the better to try to, flesh out the story a little more, even though you would think a 500-page novel would be fleshed out well enough. But it's a TV show. That's what they got to do. I'm actually going to go see the movie Rampage today, which I was a huge fan of the game as a kid. If you've never played it, you play as either a gorilla, a wolf, or an alligator, and you wreak havoc, or you rampage across a city, decimating buildings and fighting off bad guys. It's just so much fun. The movie looks fun. From what I've heard, it is basically what you'd expect. There's nothing special or fantastic about it, but hey, I have Movie Pass. I only pay $10 a month, and I can go see now 4 movies a month for $10. It used to be a movie a day. Whether that's going to be coming back or not, who knows? I think it may have come back, but now you can only see a movie once, the same movie once. You can't do repeat viewings, which, don't even get me started on that. Anyway, so maybe I'll give you guys my thoughts on that, if it's deserving of an episode of a review, which we'll see. We'll see what happens. Coming up also in the next couple weeks is Deadpool 2. Do I need to say more? If you've seen the first one, you most likely love it and are highly anticipating the second one. And I can't wait. I'm definitely anticipating it. That's for sure. And then coming out on digital/Blu-ray, digital on May 8th is Black Panther. One of the best, if not the best Marvel movie they've ever made. Not my opinion. It's definitely in the top 3 of the top 5. It's not my favorite. I'm still not sure what my favorite one would be. That's a ranking the Marvel movies, man, that's a whole nother episode. That's gonna take an episode on its own to try to figure out. Oh, that's so hard. But comes out on digital May 8th. I have that day off from work. I am definitely watching it, that's for sure. And then it's gonna come out, it's either a week later or 2 weeks later on Blu-ray. I think it's a week later, actually. It comes out the 15th. Yeah, that'd be a week later. So definitely can't wait to watch that again, for sure. Well, guys, I think that might be it. That's all I have to talk about today. Slightly shorter episode than the review, but then again, I didn't want to... I mean, I always talk your guys' ears off. You should know that by now from that first episode and from this episode, too. So, anyway, guys, please check out all the things I mentioned. You don't have to, but if you did, let me know what you checked out, what you liked. I love this pod on Instagram. I love this pod at gmail.com if you want to submit any email for me to read or to let me know that you've watched, read, listened to anything I've mentioned. If you want to suggest episode ideas, go to either one of those. I will read them all. I will hear your guys' suggestions. Anything, man. I do this for me because I love talking about the things I love, but I also love hearing what you guys want me to check out, what you guys think of what I'm doing, how I'm doing. I want to hear it all. So, guys, thank you so much for listening. Everybody who listened to that first episode, I cannot appreciate you enough. You are all awesome. If you didn't listen to it because you just didn't want to, hey, that's fine. I'm not forcing anybody to listen to it. If you didn't listen to it because you didn't want the movie spoiled for you, totally understand. But if you do see the movie, go back and listen to that. You know, let me know your thoughts if you felt the same way I did or what have you. So, guys, hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for listening. I will see you guys next week. And I don't know if I am going to keep saying love it or suck it to end this one. Maybe I'll start saying love it or shut it. That's a little less harsh, we'll just say. So, you guys let me know what you think, all right? So, this time we'll end this one by saying love it or shut it. Have a good day, guys.